Welcome to OAA Now, your home for Oakland Activities Association news and information. Here's your host, Sammy Taramina.
Welcome to OAA Now. I'm Sammy Taramina, blogger of the Dragon's Den, blog of Inside the OAA, and one of the hosts of Queen Tamina's Own Neighborhood Television. I'd like to welcome our friends watching on Oxford Community Television and also those watching on YouTube. My guest with me today, we got the Double O Trophy back from... Got Double O Trophy here this week. Of course, the Double O Trophy, if you haven't noticed, of course, is the annual trophy matchup between Lake Orion and Oxford, where they compete in football. So Lake Orion ended up winning this year's game 52-35. Of course, they just added the cumulative championship cumulative score on here. They always add the score up every time. There's a lot of trophy games around the OA that adds up a lot of that puts up scores for their championship games. So it's very interesting. Of course, we got playoffs coming up. That's going to be up in about 2 weeks. Of course, we're in week 8 right now. It's hard to believe that we are in week 8. You know, it feels early for us to be in week 8. So kind of a very, very interesting predicament right there. But there was a lot of games outside the league that we got to talk about that could have impacts on the OA when it comes to playoff situations. But let's go with some of the teams that let's go with our first one. Of course, around the out-of-state news. Of course, the big one I really believe was Waterford Mott. Of course, this was a team that had a lot of expectation going into the season. They had a lot of but let's not forget, this was this program that was caught in having illegal gatherings during the summer. Chris Farnham gets suspended for 2 games. Of course, then you have Keith Fields coming over from Lake Orion, Dalen Baldwin coming over from Farmington. And then now you have 4 losses, and they're in serious danger of missing the playoffs. So, in Waterford Mott, this was a horrible loss they had against Walled Lake Central. They were up in this game late. They were up 35-30 late. And then Walled Lake Central ended up scoring a touchdown, I believe, with about 20 seconds to go in the game, in which that gave Walled Lake Central a huge 36-35 win to get them to get their second. I believe it's their second win of the season. So that was a horrible, horrible loss for Waterford Mott. And now you look at Waterford Mott. Now they sit at 3-4 on the year. I mean, I don't think they're going to be a playoff team this year, and that's very unfortunate for the players over there at Waterford Mott who really haven't. I think we're kind of the innocent victims here of the FAR situation, the scandal, and all that went on. I think the distractions of that suspension really impacted the Corsairs this year. Now, if they do get in 5-4, it'll be. I don't know if this team will get in at 5-4. I really don't. So, once again, I think that's a huge impact for teams with Waterford Mott possibly not making the playoffs, for teams such as, if you think about it, Lake Orion, Clarkston, Bloomfield Hills, Adams, those type of teams going forward there. Lakeland's in some trouble when you look at them. This was a team that was undefeated early. They've lost 3 straight games. Now they're in danger. They got Walled Lake Western this week. Lost 18-16 Waterford Kettering. So that was another bad loss for Lakeland. I think they're in some trouble a little bit going forward. Grand Blank's in a lot of trouble as well. They lost last week to Pinckney 22-12. So this is very interesting stuff. Of course, Grand Blank's lost 3 straight games since the 4-0 start. That just tells me there's bad coaching up at Grand Blanc. It really just tells me that there's horrible coaching over at Grand Blanc. And then, of course, this is very interesting. The weekend of Mike Gioni, which his current team, Warren De La Salle, I thought they were shocked last week by Detroit University of Detroit Jesuit at Hazel Park. Lost 49-35 in that game. And then, of course, the big one. I didn't see this one coming. It's the battle for the Superintendent's Cup. Now, it's played between Macomb, Dakota, and Chippewa Valley. And to see what happened there was Chippewa Valley got a monstrous win over Macomb, Dakota, 40-38 in that one. So Greg Barr's first season as head coach, not going the way as first thought. So I think Macomb Dakota's in some serious trouble when you look at it. They got Romeo this week, and then Chippewa Valley. Now they sit 4-3, and that Orion win is looking real nice for them right now. For this virtually a young team that Coach Scott Merchant's had. I mean, they do have that win over Orion, but this was a monstrous huge win for them to get that Superintendent's Cup for the Cougars. I mean, for the Big Reds, to knock off the Cougars, and now Dakota's on the brink of elimination, having to play Romeo. Romeo's a team that sits 5-2, trying to get in the playoffs as well. So this is going to be very, very interesting going forward. So when you look at, and this all has impacts on the OAA teams. When you look at teams that could be playoff teams, that I think are going to be playoff teams, and teams that have already clinched. Some teams are well on their way to clinching to make the playoffs. My best game of the day of last week was Groves over Adams. It was a heck of a game. It was 15-8 in favor of Groves over Adams, of course. For Groves, nobody saw this coming for the Falcons. And I mean nobody saw this coming. Because the way that their season had, I thought personally, and I was one of those pundits that said Groves was going to finish here at 3-6. And you know what? I guess I owe Brandon Flaherty an apology. Because he's not only got his Falcons turning this around, but he's managed to overcome this difficult of schedule. And you might as well give them the white title now. Because the way they played, they deserve that championship. And Groves, they are right now peaking right now at the right time. And, and there's some things I think Groves is going to get better on. They're going to improve on. I think they're going to be a very good football team going forward. They got a tough one next week with unbeaten Saline. So that's going to be a tough match for Groves in that one. But Groves, they shouldn't have a problem with Farmington. I don't think they will. But for Groves, is a big win for him last week, getting that monster win against Adams going forward. And, of course, for Adams, I'm not pressing the panic button, because all you have to do is win one of your last two games to be playoff eligible. Got Stony Creek this week. If you lose that one, you're going to have to go into Clarkston and play Clarkson, and who knows what's going to happen with Clarkson. I mean, because, Clarkson's got that monstrous game this week with Orion, and that one's going to be, I think that's going to be a crazy wild game over there between Clarkston and Orion. So, but when you look at Adams, I'm not pressing the panic button with them. I would feel safe if I'm an Adams fan. If I'm Tony Petrino or Kyle Wood, I'm not feeling any type of panic right now. But if you lose to Stony Creek, then you're going to have to feel some panic, have some worry a little bit going down the stretch. When I look at tough losses, I never thought I'd see Harrison. Harrison lost to Oak Park last week, 14-9. And now they sit at 3-4. And it's not looking good for John Harrington's team. And the reason why that was a tough loss is because Harrison's offense has problems. I mean, Harrison's defense is not the issue. It's the offense has been a problem. When you look at their last 3 games, they have not fared well. When you look at, they scored 7 against Groves. They've only scored 9 against Oak Park. And then, of course, they had some trouble with Adams. I mean, this is not a this is a very odd Harrison team, that just can't score. They got a lot of injuries. Noah Hendricks forced to play quarterback. He was originally a wide receiver for him. Got Jimmy O'Connor's been hurt most of the year. And, it's kind of been a disaster when you look at injury bugs for the Hawks and John Harrington's team, going forward. So this one for Harrison, they're not going to have a problem, I think, this week with North Farmington. But I just think that game at Oxford's going to be huge. And we don't know how the mindset of the Wildcats will be, pending, because they got a monstrous game this week with Southfield Arts and Tech, A game that I think was a heck of a game, nobody's talking about was the Oregon Seahome game. course, that game was absolutely crazy. The Dragons ended up winning that one 21-14, but the Dragons were left for dead in that game because Seaholm had a chance on a 20-yard field goal attempt with 10 seconds left, and then Joe Slayton comes and blocks the kick to force overtime. And then the Dragons score on the next drive to start the overtime, and then they got a big stop on Seaholm, and then they got a fumble and recovered to win the game. That was absolutely crazy. Is that a game the Dragons should never been in? No, but here's why. Seaholm did a heck of a job in that game, and I'm going to give Seaholm a lot of credit here. The way that the Seaholm pistol triple veer option is, and it's a veer option that they run. If any defense is going to have a lot of trouble against Seaholm, it's basically you got to have the way the Dragons played in that game. I thought they didn't play well offensively in that game. They really did not, And you got to give Jim DeWald defense a lot of credit in that game. But also, the way they handled the game, I thought Seaholm controlled the game, controlled tempo in that game. I didn't think Orion was ready for and it's hard to handle a veer option. You know what I mean? Because you're a team that's not playing that type of offense always, and it's a hard situation to basically know how to handle when you are a team that's playing against a team that runs a triple option offense like Seaholm does, and it's a veer offense. So it's interesting there. Seaholm I think is the best 2-5 team in the state. They got Oak Park coming up, which I think that's going to be a monstrous game there. And then they close out with Pontiac Notre Dame Preparatory. So that'll be an interesting game between the Maples and the Knights this week. So Dragons, of course, as mentioned, they got a big one with them. Clarkston this week. It's their homecoming week. So it's going to be very interesting there. We'll go over that in the third segment. West Bloomfield, I can't explain it. 21-0. How are you up 21-0 against Clarkston? Only to see Michael Flugo, JT King take over. Flugo was responsible for at least 4 touchdowns in that game. 3 touchdowns in that game. And Clarkston won 42-21 over West Bloomfield, effectively ending West Bloomfield's playoff dreams. Now, I don't know how West Bloomfield will be able to get back in the playoffs. They got a favorable schedule to close out. I think they'll finish 5-4. It's going to come down to playoff points for them. So when you look at West Bloomfield, I think they're in some deep trouble there. But for Clarkston, big one for them, going up against Orion, and then Adams to close out the year. So this is big for Clarkston. If that Orion-Clarkston game, absolutely monstrous heading into this week's games. But West Bloomfield, of course, going down, kind of disappointing, you know what I mean? How they looked against Suffolk Arts and Tech, and then, of course, now at Clarkston. So, and they were very impressive in that Orion game. They were very impressive, scoring 37 points against the Dragons there in that one. Troy and Berkeley was a good game. Of course, Troy has not won a home game since 2013. Homecoming game against Berkeley. Both jerseys, both uniforms. I thought Troy's black jerseys and Berkeley's all white jerseys are just awful. But anyway, it was a heck of a game over there. Berkeley was down 17-7.5 against Troy, and they came back, scored 3 of their 4 touchdowns in the second half. Berkeley wins that game 28-23, and that was it's a tough feeling for Troy. I'll tell you what. Tough feeling for him. When you look at it going forward, I think that when you have a defense like Berkeley that shuts teams down, especially bigger schools down, they limit them to 6 points. The win keeps Berkeley's hopes alive. Sets up a monstrous showdown for the league title between them and Bloomfield Hills. So this will be very interesting going forward between those two teams. When I look at it here, of course, other scores, Bloomfield Hills knocking off Notre Dame Preparatory 35-31. I wasn't impressed with Olympia Hills defensively. I still am not. But as I said, October's here for them, and they got a tough schedule. They got Berkeley this week, Orion next week, which I think Orion's gonna be a very tough game for them. But good win for Dan Lauria and his team going out there to Notre Dame Preparatory and winning that game. They got some athletes down there at Bloomfield Hills. But it'll be very interesting when they match up with Berkeley and Swartz, especially next week with Orion. So we'll see what happens there in that one. Oxford had no problem with Troy Athens. Of course, Joey Stark's back. He had a good game. But Oxford put up 41 points. Ethan Williams had another monstrous outing. Southfield Arts and Tech had no problem with Stony Creek. So they've been peaking at the right time. There's some things I do believe Scott Bernstein, of course, he does my picks for football too, so on the blog. But Southfield Arts and Tech, the way they're playing well right now. But they got a monstrous game this week against Oxford, so that's going to be a very interesting matchup going forward there with those. Farmington legitimately won a game, 49 over North Farmington, legitimately. So it's good for them. Of course, Rochester, I think they're getting ready to go on their playoff run here. They got to be careful of Hazel Park this week and Stony Creek next week. They had no problem with Royal Oak, 35-21. Royal Oak was my major disappointment last week, so I'm not going to say much about Royal Oak, especially because I know a lot of people are. And I'm personally disappointed with what Ray McMahon's done with that team. I'm very disappointed with what happened there, and it's unfortunate to see what happened there, and it is what it is. So, it is what it is. A team I really like is Ferndale. Blew out Hazel Park 51-20. This is a playoff team. Young ones. This is a playoff team because Eric Royal's done a magnificent job with this team, building them up from the bottom to the top, and he's got Ferndale in a really nice place right now. I think this is a playoff team. I think they could make some noise in the playoffs. So I like where the Eagles are at right now. Even though that they've been struggling the last few years, but this is a team I really, really like is Ferndale. They can run the ball. I don't know if I can trust their passing attack right now. I really don't know if I can going forward. But anyway, the Eagles, very impressive win over the Vikings, and it's a good, and it tells me that Ferndale can compete with not only the small schools, also the big schools. One of Ferndale's wins was against Avondale, and Avondale beat Pontiac 20-6. So Avondale's been rolling lately. So that is good for the Yellow Jackets to finish out strong, even though it's too late to make a playoff push. But if they finish 4-5, then they can make a serious case for building up in the future. So a lot of good stuff around the league this week. Last week, of course, some better than others. Others could be better, but we'll see what happens going forward. So a lot of big matchups coming up week 8. We'll go over that in the third segment going forward. So, I think when you look at it, this out of state news is kind of have a huge impact to the OAA, especially because what is going on, the other state news, but what is going on outside the league will have a huge impact of what happens inside the league. One other thing I forgot to mention was Davison. Davison picked up a huge 28-7 win over Lapeer, and I think that's going to be a huge method going forward, especially when you look at the possibility of probably either Clarkson or Lake Orion having to go up there, or maybe even Oxford having to go up there to Davison and play those type of teams in the next round. So we'll see what happens going forward with the playoff situation. We'll keep an eye on it. We've been keeping an eye on it for the last 2 weeks or so going forward. So, okay, now when we come back, we're going to talk about boys soccer districts. They are out here on OA Now. Welcome back to OA Now. Sammy Toomey. We got breaking news out of girls basketball. Of course, Mackenzie Harbort, Seaholm's top player, is out until February with the ACL injury she injured during summer ball. Of course, this is a big loss for Coach January Haleski and her team. Of course, Seaholm was one of the favorites in girls basketball to win the blue division. Of course, I updated the top 10 rankings. They're on the blog. They're inside the OA at Saginaw at Sammy Termina at blogspot.com. So you can take a look at the girls basketball preseason and also the top 9 league games for the season. Let's go to a sport I haven't talked about much, and that is boys soccer. Now, I haven't talked much about it because, it's been a lot when you look at a lot with football lately, but this is very interesting. When you look at the teams surrounding this district, of course, District 9, of course, is going to be very interesting. It's going to take place at Grosse Pointe South. Of course, there's some good teams in here in this district. Of course, you've got Grosse Pointe South taking on Detroit Western, Oak Park taking on Grosse Pointe North, Hamtramck and Detroit Cass Tech, and Dearborn Fortson against Detroit University, Detroit Jesuit. I thought about this district, and I think this is a weak district, when I look at it, because I'm not sold on a couple teams surrounding soccer. Oak Park this year in boys soccer was not very good. Gave up a ton of goals, not consistent. But when I look at this one going forward, I really think there's 3 teams that have a shot. I'm not sold on Grosse Pointe South or Grosse Pointe North. I'm not sold on those teams. As much as I'm sold about teams up down in Wayne County when you look at Detroit Western, Dearborn Fortson, and Detroit University, Detroit Jesuits. So when I look at my favorites here in this one, I really think that Detroit Western, I like what Detroit Western's doing going forward, and I think they're going to be a team that's going to create some damage going forward. But I really like what they've done, and I think that Detroit Western, they played a tough schedule. They played tough competition. At the end of the day, they're going to be a team that I think is going to make some noise going forward. I like Detroit Western coming out of this district, to at least do some damage and win this district at Grosse Pointe South. Now, if Grosse Pointe South could surprise me, but I just think, end of the day, I just think Detroit Western has probably the best chance to win District 9 over at Grosse Pointe South. Let's go to District 10. It's at Utica. Of course, you got Sterling Heights with Warren Mott. Got Troy Athens virtually going into Macomb County. Got Sterling Heights taking on Warren Mott. Utica taking on Troy Athens. Of course, Utica Ford versus Warren Cousino. The winner of the Ford Cousino matchup will take on Sterling Heights Stevenson. Sterling Heights Stevenson is not bad, but I still think when I look at this one here, Troy Athens is state power. Warren Cousino is a very interesting story because they got Kelsey Brown's their head coach, and of course Kelsey Brown we know is a lady, and coaching a guy's sport, which is always interesting. But Kelsey Brown's done a nice job with them with the Patriots this year. Of course, 4-1 league record, not bad. 4-1 league record. But she is I think she's one of the best coaches in Macomb County. I really think she is. You know what I mean? And then you look at Troy Athens, state soccer power. They're a tough team. This is a soccer team that I think is going to be a very dangerous team going forward. I think at the end of the day, when you look at this matchup, when you look at this district, I have got to give an edge to Troy Athens. And it's pretty simple. Troy Athens, they were ranked number 1 in Oakland County to start the year. They had an all right season this year, but I think Troy Athens is getting ready for another playoff run. They're going to be a team that's going to be worth keeping an eye on going forward. So I like this Red Hawk team. It's a very good Red Hawk team, and I think it's going to be a team that could be a surprise going forward. But I think Troy Athens could make a serious run at a state championship in this case. So, I like Troy Athens getting out of Utica, and I think they're going to give Fraser. Of course, Fraser is, I think, the best team in Macomb County. I think Fraser's going to have. I think Troy Athens will definitely give Fraser a lot of problems in this matchup when they see him in the regional semifinal. So this will be a good one. I think it would be between Troy Athens and Fraser, and of course that regional's at Troy Athens, so that's going to be a tough chore, I think, for the Ramblers going forward if they do have to play the host school, Troy Athens, in the next round. So keep an eye on that one for sure. District 13's at Troy. Of course, got Groves versus Bloomfield Hills, Berkeley Royal Oak, Birmingham Brother Rice versus Seaholm, and Troy versus Southfield Arts and Tech. You know, when I look at this one, all OAA with the exception of Birmingham Brother Rice, but when you look at Southfield Arts and Tech this year, they've been beating everybody up in the blue. They've been putting up 8 goals lately. They've been putting up a ton of goals against non-league teams. Seaholm's been a team on the rise. Groves has been a team on the rise. Bloomfield Hills had a rough year in the white. Berkeley, of course, is in that always tough red. Troy, of course, we know Troy, and then of course Royal Oak. When I look at this one here, I think it's a toss-up district. I really do. But when you look at the situation going forward, I think that when I look at this district, you can't go against the home team, comfortable surroundings in their home field. I think at the end of the day, I've got to give an edge to Troy here because of the experience. And then, of course, you have a possible clash with Grand Blanc looming in that regional, which is at Stony Creek. So when I look at this one here, I've got to give an edge to Troy because of the experience factor. They got a very good player there, and I think it's going to be a team to keep an eye on going forward. I think Troy has got a great shot at winning this district. They could have a surprise run, but I just think that Troy right now would be content right now winning a district right now going forward. Let's go to District 14. It's at Heartland. Of course, very interesting matchup. Got Wall Lake Central against West Bloomfield. North Farmington going against the Milford Mavericks. Heartland Eagles against the Lakeland Eagles. And Wall Lake Northern versus Wall Lake Western. You know, I think when I look at this district, I think it's a toss-up between Heartland, North Farmington, and North Farmington. I mean, West Bloomfield is my dark horse, I would say. You know, but with the Wall Lake schools, I can't trust them, nor Lakeland or Milford. But they've had some good soccer in the KLA. But when I look at this one here, it's at Heartland. It's a host school. I think it's going to be a North Farmington Heartland final. And I think it's going to be, unfortunately, for OA fans, I think it's going to be Heartland that wins it because I think Heartland has got enough experience. It's on grass. And it's going to be very interesting because a lot of these teams play on turf. And, of course, I know that Wall Lake Central, West Bloomfield, North Farmington, Milford, Lakeland, Wall Lake Northern, and Wall Lake Western, they all have turf fields. So playing on a grass field, I think it's going to be very interesting there. And I think the element there is going to be a challenge for a turf team playing on a grass field. And Heartland's got a grass field. So, end of the day, I've got the Heartland Eagles taking this district over North Farmington. It's going to be a heck of a district final. But I think that end of the day, I'm going to have to go with the Eagles of Heartland to overcome the Raiders of North Farmington going forward. District 15 at Adams. Of course, this is interesting because they got a lot of good teams in this district. Got Orion, Oxford, Rochester, Waterford, Mott, Stony Creek, Waterford, Kettering, Clarkson versus Adams. You know, when I look at this one, I evaluate this one. Clarkson has to play Adams first, and that's going to be a very, very good matchup for a lot of soccer fans because both these teams are very, very good teams. And then you look at the realization of playing Stony Creek in the next round. Stony Creek would not have any problem with Waterford Kettering. And then, of course, the other side of things got Orion versus Oxford and Rochester versus Waterford Mott. I think the Dragons end up getting a great draw here. But they did play Oxford early in the year, and it was a 1-1 tie in that one. So that kind of gives me a little bit of non-confidence with this Dragon team. I know Lake Orion's had a rough year offensively, having trouble scoring goals. Rochester, of course, beat them early in the year, 1-0. So that's a major concern going forward in this one. So when I look at this game here, I really believe that that Rochester taking on Waterford Mott. I don't think Rochester's going to have a problem with Waterford Mott. Orion and Oxford, I think, is going to be a close game. I know that game's at Orion, And then, of course, it'll be interesting between, I think it's either going to be those three teams against either Stony Creek, Clarkson, or Adams. And those three teams are going to battle it out. And whoever comes out of this district is going to look very, very good going forward. And, of course, I'm going to go with Adams because, one, they're the host team. Two, I think that tough draw is going to help them. I think it's going to be Adams versus either Orion or Rochester. Maybe Oxford's got a shot, but I think it's going to be Adams versus Orion or Rochester. And end of the day, I just think that the Highlanders at home, of course, they're going to have their hair blonded, and I think Adams will come out of that district and win that one. It will not be an easy district, you know what I mean? But Rochester, though, does have a win on Adams. And but being at Adams' home field, I think Adams is going to be a team that it's going to be a very unique team going forward there. District 24 is at Farmington. Of course, this one's interesting because I think South Lyon, East, and Farmington will contend here. But I just think that Dearborn Devon Child's on a mission. I really like this team, what they've got. I don't think they're going to be unopposed here in this ending of the regional. But South Lyon, East, and Farmington could give them problems. But end of the day, I just think that Dearborn Devon Child is going to go untouched. Now, Farmington could give them something because they're at home and all this. And they play in a tougher league, but South Lyon East as well. But as I said, I don't think anybody's touching Dearborn Devon Child going forward in this one. Let's go to District 25, which is going to be at Broomfield Hills, Cranbrook, Kingswood. There's a lot of Catholic League power here in this one. Got Madison Heights Lamphere versus Detroit Country Day. Harrison versus Warren Fitzgerald. Hazel Park versus Orchard Lake St. Mary's. The winner of Hazel Park Orchard Lake St. Mary's will take on Cranbrook Kingswood. I think the district finals in that semifinal between Orchard Lake St. Mary's and Cranbrook Kingswood. Now, the Detroit Country Day, I think, is going to win the. I'm going to be on the other side waiting for one of those two in the district final. But I just think that, end of the day, Cranbrook Kingswood, I think, is going to be too much for Orchard Lake St. Mary's in the semifinal. I think they're going to beat Detroit Country Day in the final. They got a lot of talent over there at Cranbrook Kingswood. I just think that Harrison Hazel Park in that district, they don't have much of a chance in that side of the draw. But either way, I still think Cranbrook Kingswood is going to win that district. It's going to be closer than people think. I think that's Orchard Lake. It could go either way. If Orchard Lake St. Mary's beats Cranbrook Kingswood, I think that Orchard Lake St. Mary's would win this district. But I think whoever wins that match between the Eaglets and Broomfield Hills, Cranbrook Kingswood, I think is going to win that district. So I like Cranbrook Kingswood coming out. Home team, you know what I mean? They'll do damage, you know what I mean? So I expect that'll be a good district over there, Adam. Bloomfield Hills, Cranbrook Kingswood. That'll be a good one. District 27, which is going to be at Pontiac Notre Dame Preparatory. Got Avondale versus Yale. Pontiac Notre Dame Preparatory versus Pontiac. Armada versus Ortonville Brandon. Goodrich versus North Branch. It's interesting because Avondale's a senior-heavy team. It's a team that's going to be a very dangerous team going forward. And you got Notre Dame Preparatory is normally good. Then you have Armada, Brandon, North Branch, and Goodrich. They're all going to be tough outs. So when I look at this one here, going forward, I've got to give an edge to Avondale because they're the league they play in, of course, the OAA. The experience factor, they got a lot of senior experience. I think it's going to be an Avondale versus Brandon final. Brandon's got a very good goaltender and a good defense. I think that the Blackhawks will match up in this game with the Yellow Jackets, but I think the experience factor will be a huge factor, and it always is experience when it comes to these things in soccer. So I'm going to take Avondale on this one because I think the league they play in is brutal. The experience, when you have a lot of senior experience, you're going to win games, and I think that Avondale is going to be a team that wins games going forward. I think they're going to do some damage in this district. Of course, District 27, so we'll see what happens with Avondale going forward. And last but not least, we have the District 41 at Clawson. You got Detroit Jalen Rose Academy taking on Hamtramck Frontier International. Detroit, Jalen Rose Academy, Hamtramck, Frontier National. That winner will take on Livonia Clarenceville. Ferndale take on Detroit University Preparatory. And then the winner of that game will take on Clawson. So when I look at that district, I think it's a very bad district when you look at that one. I think it's going to be I think when you have to look at favorites, you got to look at Clawson because they're at home. It's a brand new field that they build over there at Clawson. It's a nice field, by the way, too, if you ever go down there to Clawson. But when you look at that this district, it's a very unique district, and at the end of the day, I just think that it's a pretty bad district. Ferndale this year has struggled in the league. I mean, Detroit, Jalen Rose Academy, Hamtramck, Frontier International, not that good teams. Livonia Clarenceville could give a threat, to Clawson, but end of the day, I just think that Clawson being at home will be they're at home, and I think that that home field advantage will help them in this game, and I think Clawson will go on and win this district over at Clawson. So I think the Trojans will win this district probably pretty easily. So, of course, the districts will start on Monday. The next week here, of course. So we'll see what happens going forward with the districts. Of course, the region will be very interesting. So we'll see what happens going forward in time with these teams. So final thoughts, of course. We'll see what happens in boys soccer, of course, going forward with these districts. So, okay, now when we come back, we're gonna preview the games for Week 8 and my thoughts here on OAA Now. Welcome back to OAA Now. I'm Sammy Termina here, of course. For our third segment, of course, we got the Double O Trophy here, of course, being our special guest here today. When we look at games this week, of course, Week 8, very interesting games. There's a lot of teams trying to get in the playoffs, a lot of teams trying to get better. Of course, a couple teams have already clinched the playoffs. I know Groves for sure is in the playoffs. Bloomfield Hills as well is also in the playoffs. So, of course, Clarkston, Orient, Ferndale, Adams all have a chance to get into the postseason this week with wins. Now, Clarkston and Orient are going to be playing each other, so that's going to be a really, really interesting matchup going forward. Let's go to my first game. Of course, it's Madison Heights Lampiers taking on Avondale. I mean, when you look at the last 2 weeks, Avondale's managed to turn the corner. They've outscored their last two opponents by a score of 59-6. Of course, Avondale runs a triple option offense. Now, Madison Heights Lampiers scored 59 points for the whole season. Avondale scored 59 points the last 2 weeks. So, that's not going to be an easy matchup for them. And then you have Madison Heights Lampier. They've allowed 203 points overall, and Avondale's only allowed 6 points. Do the math how this is going to work out. I mean, it's too late for their playoff hopes, but I think Avondale's going to get a nice win here over Madison Heights Lampier. It's going to be a blowout, and this has got blowout city on here. Of course, Avondale's had a lot of bad luck, especially with their 2 early season losses. One was to Rochester, where they lost by a point, and the other one was their first game against New Boston Huron, where they had a heartbreaking loss. They lost 22-15 in that game. Avondale will get this win. I think they're going to blow out Madison Heights Lampier pretty convincingly in this one. So I like Avondale, and I think Avondale's going to absolutely just destroy the Rams this week. So it will not be a pretty game going forward there. Next, we have Pontiac against Troy. When I look at this one, I look at the record of Troy football at home. They have not won a game in 3 years at home. There are 2 victories this year were on the road. One was at Stony Creek over Troy, and the other one was at Avondale. So when I look at this matchup, if Troy would have won the Royal Oak game last week, we could be talking about this team possibly in a playoff race. They suffered a heartbreaking loss last week to Berkeley, on their homecoming. And right now, this is a team that knows that they're playing with nothing to lose. They're trying to win a game for the first time since 2013 at home when they beat Lathrop 27-0. Lathrop's no longer a school anymore. Of course, they're taking on the Pontiac Phoenix, first meeting since 2013. Troy won that game 2013 in that one. Back then, of course, even though these two teams are in two different worlds right now, I kind of think that Pontiac and Troy are going to get up for each other. And I think that it's going to be a good game down there at Troy. I really do. Now, a lot of my colleagues have said that this could be a blowout, and it wouldn't surprise me if it is a blowout. But end of the day, I got to go with I'm going to go with the Colts. I think they're going to get that first win since 2013. I think they're going to make some noise, and I think they're going to be a team that I think next season, I think will make the next step up. But they've got a lot of work to do in fixing that program down there at Troy. Of course, Gary Griffin's got a lot of work to do to fix that program. Pontiac, it's been a rough year for Coach John Thompson and his team. But they're not giving up. They're trying to build a foundation down there. And it's going to be for Pontiac fans, I advise you to stay patient with your football program. Stay patient, because I think you got the right coach in there in John Thompson, and I think he's going to do a magnificent job. I just don't think this is going to be the year for them to build up. It's not going to be built overnight. Like Rome was not built overnight for Pontiac, and I think that John Thompson's going to get that program right again. I think he's going to make that team better again. I think Pontiac's going to be a better team next year, just not this year. So we'll see what happens with them. But for Pontiac fans, be patient with your football team. Harrison and North Farmington. Harrison was 3-4. They're 3-4. North Farmington's got to be on awful. And you look at what happened last week with North Farmington. How do you lose 40-9 to Farmington? How? You were up 9-7 at one point. And you give up 34 points? It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. North Farmington, they deserve to be in the blue next year. They should be going down in the blue next year. And you're taking on a Harrison team that's, having trouble scoring. But their defense the last two games has been pretty good. Very productive. But when you look at this team in Harrison, Harrison's going to go out there and I think they're going to beat North Farmington, be into a pulp. This is going to be bad. Now, I don't know if this will be enough to get Harrison the playoffs, but if they can win that game at Oxford, I think that'd be huge for them. But like I said, this is not going to be an easy game for North Farmington, and Harrison's got a very tough road. Harrison won't have a problem this week. They will not have a problem with this game. I think they're going to win this game pretty convincingly. And then, of course, we got next is Troy Athens, West Bloomfield. West Bloomfield is another disappointing team of mine. And they haven't played well. They were up 21-0 last week against Clarkson. Ended up losing 42-21. Troy Athens this year has been beaten up. Really beaten up. And they just got Joey Stark back. Wasn't enough. It's a mismatch on paper. But West Bloomfield's in the same boat as Harrison. It's a team that's very desperate. I don't know if they will get in the playoffs with the 5-4 record, but in this one, I like them this week over Troy Athens. I think West Bloomfield is going to be a team that they're going to be angry to what happened against Clarkson. But I don't think Troy Athens will give them a lot of resistance. So I like the Lakers in this one. And they're going to humiliate Clarkson going forward. So they're going to humiliate Troy Athens going forward. So we'll see what happens there. Apologize to those at Clarkson. But we'll see what happens there. Rochester takes on Hazel Park. Hazel Park was dreading this matchup early in the year when that was one of the reasons why they asked to lead the OAA, is because the smaller schools did not have a chance to compete against the bigger schools. You know? They felt they couldn't compete against the bigger schools. Ferndale's competing against bigger schools. Hazel Park, you just beat a big school in Royal Oak at least 3 weeks ago. I understand you're 3-35 since 2012. Get 51 last week to Ferndale, who is smaller than you are. You know, but Rochester's a team has also been struggling before the start of this season. They were 2-16 the last 2 years. And Rochester's managed to turn it around. They've managed to turn it around. For Rochester to make the playoffs, they need this game. And they also need the game next week in Stony Creek. I can understand why Hazel Park's in this matchup. But I can understand that Hazel Park still got athletes and they can compete. Rochester, yeah, they got athletes too. They can compete. But to me, this is a mismatch on paper. I think Hazel Park is going to get killed this week by Rochester. And I don't think Rochester's going to hold any mercy on them. I really don't. You know, so we'll see what happens in this matchup. We will see what happens. But I think Rochester wins this one pretty convincingly. Adams and Stony Creek. You know, when you look at this matchup here, Battle at Tinkin Road, Stony Creek's had a long year, playing with nothing to lose. Adams is playing for everything to lose. I think it's going to be a good game. I really do. I think it's an underrated game nobody's talking about. Battle at Tinkin Road. Kids know each other. I think it's going to be a good game between these two teams. And then I think Adams gets win number 6. And that's because I think that, and I know Adams does not want to go into Clarkston wanting for that to be their chance to make the playoffs. And we all know that. It's a difficult assignment for them. But for Adams, I think if they win this game, put the playoff thing to bed, you know what I mean? Then when you play Clarkston, you know what I mean? You know what you got to work on to get in the playoffs. So I think Adams wins this game. Coming off a tough loss to Groves. But end of the day, I think if they clinch the playoff spot against Stony Creek, then I think they will be contempt. Because I don't think this is a team that wants to go into Clarkston needing to win the game to make playoffs. Now, I could be wrong, but who knows? Who knows? Ferndale and Royal Oak. You know, when I look at this one here, Ferndale has really improved. 51 points. You know, the most they put up since 2014. Oddly, when they put 50 against Hazel Park. 51 points is the most they've ever put up in 2 years. It's incredible. Eric Royals done a heck of a job with this team. 232 points, most in the league. Only allowed 112 points. This is good stuff that Eric Royals doing with this team. Really good stuff, what he's doing. Royal Oak, of course, I mentioned my major disappointments in football. You know? No consistency at all. None. You want to expect victory, you got to keep winning football games on a consistent basis. Royal Oak has not done that. I mean, yes, they got good kids, but if you want to be a good football team, you have to win consistently. And Royal Oak has not done that. Whereas Ferndale has put everything together. They have. And it's showing with the results. That's why they're a 5-2 football team right now. I mean, yeah, the co-op program has helped them. But when you have a team that is winning games, it makes it a lot easier to come to work and work harder with these kids. The kids will work harder for a coach they like. That's what's going on at Ferndale. Royal Oak this year, I thought personally Royal Oak would be a better team than what they're showing. They've been one of my disappointments. I mean, the loss of Hazel Park really just justified that point for me. I like Ferndale in this one pretty convincingly. I like them pretty convincingly. Groves and Farmington. Congratulations, Groves. You're going to win the white outright. Farmington's got not a chance. Not a chance. Farmington, of course, yeah, they won last week, but they're not very good. You know? And it's Farmington's homecoming this week, so this is going to be a pretty bad week for Farmington. Groves will probably get ready for Saline next week. They could use this game to get them ready, play a lot of second strings in this one. I think Brendan Flaherty's team get ready for unbeaten Saline next week. If I'm Groves, going out there to Washtenaw County, it's not going to be an easy game. I like Groves in this one pretty convincingly. I do. Next is Oak Park and Seaholm. The Knights have been rolling. You know what I mean? But this is a dangerous matchup with Seaholm, though. Seaholm runs that pistol veer offense. Gave Orion a lot of problems. Last year's game, Seaholm was up in that one 14-13 late. Oak Park throws a Hail Mary. Chauncey Wilman throws a Hail Mary. I think Robert Daniel caught it to beat Seaholm. And it sent the Maple Forest into a state of depression. The Maple Forest is a very odd student section. Very odd. I mean, they sing Christmas songs. They sing, they did a lot of current music out there. And heck, this group even sang the iCarly theme song. Yikes. Yikes. I wonder why they would sing the iCarly theme song. The Maple Forest. Very interesting. But anyway, it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a heck of a game between Oak Park and Seaholm. I like the Knights in this one. It's going to be close than people think. But I think Oak Park's going to be a team that really, really creates havoc in this one. I think they're going to create some problems for Seaholm. But I think at the end of the day, if Seaholm's defensive line doesn't blow it up, and Oak Park's defense has played very well lately, but I just think if time possession football comes, it's going to favor the Maples. And playing in Birmingham at the Maple Forest, it's a hard place to play. There's no doubt about it. But at the end of the day, I think Oak Park will win this game because of their experience up front, and I think their line up front is going to be huge in this game. So, we'll see what happens in that one. Got 2 more games here. 3 more games. Berkeley, Bloomfield Hills. League title on the line. You know, I'm not sold on Bloomfield Hills. I'm still not. Even though they beat Notre Dame Preparatory 35-31 last week. Now you're going up against Berkeley. A team that was shaky, but they've managed to turn around a little bit. But I like Berkeley in this game because they do have enough, and you can attack Bloomfield Hills defensively. I think Berkeley will, but I think Bloomfield Hills will score points too in this game. But you know, Bloomfield Hills I know wants to stay undefeated. There's no doubt about that. But at the end of the day, I think that Berkeley is going to be a team that if they want to send a statement they're back. You win this game, you're back. And I think Chris Sequoia's team, they're desperate. If they want the league title that they've been wanting, then you win this game right now. You win this game right now. And I got to give Berkeley the edge there, and I think the Bears will win this game over the Blackhawks. It's going to be a good game down there at Bloomfield Hills. It will be. Southfield Arts and Tech in Oxford. It's going to be a good game. You know, when I look at the Warriors, you know, they travel up the 10-mile road in Losser from up there to Ray Road and having to deal with the construction on I-75 and then also what's going on in Lake Orion and on 24. I think it's going to be a problem for them. I really do. If they're not mentally focused and ready to go, I think the Warriors lose this game. Now, I know the death of Kara Allen has really motivated this team. You know? And it has. They've won 2 straight games since the tragedy. But when I look at this game here, going up to Oxford, having to deal with the power team, it was very similar to what happened in the Orion game for Southfield Arts and Tech, where Southfield Arts and Tech defensive line has to be huge in this game if they want to beat Oxford. You got to force Parker Fleming to throw if you have a chance, if you're Coach Tim Connolly and his staff. If they don't, Ethan Williams will have a huge game against them, and it could be a long night for the Warriors. I like Oxford in this game because I think they're going to be a team that's going to be a very dangerous team. I mean, Southfield Arts and Tech Oxford's outscored their opponents 95-34 in the last 2 weeks. Southfield Arts and Tech has outscored their opponents 74-21 in that stretch. It's going to be a very close game. I expect this is going to come down the wire. At the end of the day, I'm going to go with Oxford because I think Oxford, they're going to find a way to win this game at home. I think Ethan Williams has 2 touchdowns in this one. I think the entire league is going to get to know Parker Fleming because I think he's going to have a huge game. Now, Marquise Thorns is a very good defensive back. I think he's going to have a huge game too. But I just think at the end of the day, I like Oxford in this one closer than people think. Last but not least, we got Orion and Clarkston. This is going to be fun. Homecoming. Can the Dragons stop Michael Flugo, JT King, and Josh Cantu? Defense has played all right the last few weeks. 14-14-14 last 3 weeks. It's going to come down to, can the Dragons have a passing game against Clarkston? If they have a passing game against Clarkston, I think this team's got a great chance. I think when I look at this one here, it's Lake Orion's homecoming. There's no doubt about that. And then, of course, but I don't think the Dragons better be careful of the homecoming hype. And also, this team has to be motivated after what happened last year. When they lost, they had a running clock against them. It was 35-0 in favor of Clarkston in that game. It ended up being 35-14, but it really wasn't close. I think it's going to be a heck of a game. I really do. A lot of my colleagues are split in this game. And of course, it's going to be very close. I believe it's going to be very, very close. When I look at this one, Orion has got a lot to prove than Clarkston does. Whoever wins this game is a playoff team. I think Orion wins this game because one, I think that Clarkston's going to have some trouble in this game with Chris Wilson. I really do. But the key's going to be is, can the Dragons find offensive tempo? They were not very good last week against Seaholm. The defense is going to have to show up, too, against Clarkston. Clarkston's got a good offense. We'll see what happens going forward. We shall see what happens going forward. Final thoughts here, of course, in this one here. We'll see what happens this week. Week 8's going to be fun. Ton of fun. So we'll see what happens going forward. Can everybody, I'm going to sign off here. Of course, take care, everybody, this week. Good luck this week, everybody. Take care. God bless all. See y'all next week.
OAA Now is produced at Orion Neighborhood Television, Lake Orion's community media outlet. To learn more about ONTV, visit our website at www.orionontv.org or call us at 248-393-1060.